Okay, do we have any minutes?
I don't
They've
know
been
whether you or
filed.
I don't know whether you or I took minutes at the last one, but there were none on the website for me to distribute.
Did we have a meeting last? So this was
It would have been
We didn't have it
December.
in January.
it would
Yeah,
have
it
been
would-
December.
It would have been
Yes.
December.
Okay,
So if there were minutes filed, they need to be scanned and uploaded, and we can go over them in the next meeting. That's all.
okay. All right, I don't have an agenda in front of me either. I'm just doing a terrible job.
Oh, okay. So give me a second, and I'll pull it up on the screen. Hey, hold your horses.
I have it in front of me if you just want me to tell you what's next.
Yes, Brian.
Sure, that'll work.
Okay. The next, number 2 is new member Tommy Angelo.
Who is not here? But I did
Welcome,
send.
Tommy.
Welcome, Tommy. But I did send him the agenda, and when Renee and I talked to him in late December, he was interested in being a member. So I don't know what this means now.
Okay, number 3.
Okay. Number 3, old business progress reports. First one is trails update, Trainwreck Park.
Okay, so I will. I have to talk obliquely about the grant. Essentially, we essentially know we're going to get some money, and we know it's not going to be the full amount. But we can't say anything officially until CT Deep makes their official announcement. What I do also know is that CT Deep, even though they're not funding the full amount, considers it to be a priority project. So they've submitted it through another channel to make up as much of the rest of the funding as they can. And I'm not sure what the notification piece is on that.
Go
Go ahead.
I was putting my headphones on, so I missed. Are we specifically talking about train wreck grant?
That for that particular moment we were, yes.
Okay.
Unrelated to that grant, but related to trails, Amy and I went out last Thursday or Friday, I think it was Friday, and met Senator Blumenthal up at West Thompson Dam with Ed Greeno, and who is the ranger there, and Ed's it's like a regional planning coordinator of some kind. I can't remember his title or his name. I'm sad to say, because he didn't have any cards with him. But they got approved for $800,000 in federal money to redo the parking surface headed into the boat ramp, and also to upgrade the electrical capacity for the campground. And they're super stoked about that. And I think everybody here also already knows that the Blaine Road Bridge is almost done, and they are Ed Greeno from USACE is going to be coming into the trails meeting to talk about another ribbon cutting. So that is something that, maybe branding wants to take a piece of helping to publicize that. I don't know, but it's certainly something that this group should be considering for future action. And then the third relevant trails piece is I had a meeting today with TLGV, our rec department, Leslie in Coventry, and Teague to move on to year 2 of the Airline Trail Camp, which is not just Airline Trail Camp anymore. It's, Thompson Trail Camp and Coventry Trail Camp. Essentially, TLGV is taking the lead now. They're going to be the lead organizer, really promoting this as a way to get many, many more kids on the trails. 4 week-long sessions, one centered out of Thompson, one centered out of Coventry, doing similar kinds of things, going up and down the trails, centered out of one location for each of the 2 rec departments, hitting some surrounding towns as well, but really trying to, through the avenue of kids getting out there and seeing what's in the towns, having them, obviously the main goal is that the kids have good summer programming, but a secondary goal is you know, the kids go back to their parents, they say to their parents, hey, we did this cool thing, let's go out and visit again, let's go to these trails. So it all kind of works together.
Okay, so was that it for grants?
Well, for trails.
Okay.
Yeah, I think. Brian, unless you want to add, Lafredo, unless you want to add anything there that I'm forgetting. If you're talking, Lafredo, you're on mute.
Because of the dog. I can't think of anything. I'd be nice to know more specifics about the dollar amount from Deep for the train wreck park, but if you don't have that, that's fine. It's nice that they're pursuing other sources, and yeah, I knew about the campground, and we're waiting to do the Blaine Road, so sounds like you covered that pretty well from a trails perspective.
Yeah, I'm trying to do the speed dating version of
Yeah.
this so that Renee can get out. So yeah.
Yeah, that's tier is speed dating. Brian, what's next on the agenda?
Okay, next is the 11th Village / Maker Fairs.
Yeah, I lumped those two things together because they clearly have a relationship. Mike Joyce actually reached back out to me just this week about what the school can do. Yacino and Dan Bennett have started to take some of the lead on working through the stuff with Mike about what the kids can construct. We still have to work through the obstacle of the fact that we encumbered that money to Dave Eddy. I'm still not sure how we can make that adjustment with the money that we put aside from last year, but we've got to spend it before the end of this year. And Mike and I are going to try to set up a meeting. And you and I can talk about this tomorrow when we're going over the budget stuff.
Okay.
And I'd like that meeting to be between all of the identified partners to move the project forward, both as construction and as programming. So that's, Mike and Yacino and Dan, Ann at Teague, and, maybe Melinda, maybe the principal at the high school. These are all the people that we've spoken to, each of whom has a piece that's relevant. But I want to get that kick started again now, especially if Mike is looking for projects. I just, my obstacle is how to release those funds from Dave Eddy and get them paid out to the school tech program so they can get those materials and get those things moving forward. And then, go ahead.
Well, I was saying, I was surprised he reached out to you because I had told him that I was going to, try to cover it, and he made it sound like they weren't ever going to think about it this spring.
Well, this is their spring semester. I mean, it's winter to us, but it's a half-year program for them.
Yeah.
And in Maker Fairs, the registration is open for vendors. You'd have to ask Leave and see how many are registered, but as of the last time I spoke to him, it was around 28, and that was with no publicity at all. Hungry Lion Food Truck happened to email me today to ask about the calendar of events in Thompson in general, so I referred her over to Amanda and Leave and see to fill her in, but we know we have at least one food truck vendor who wants to work all of them. So so that's good. And then, tying it back to the 11th Village, we will make the sheds that we have available regardless of the status of the rest of the project. Because there are some people who enjoy being in them, and that's at least part of, moving it forward. So, questions, comments?
No.
Okay.
Next, community gardens / 65 Main Street / Fish and Nips. That's cute.
Yeah, well, I think that's how I wrote the last crowdfund, was our Fish and Nips. Community garden registration also open. Leave and See is working with the Quiet Corner Garden Club to offer some classes for families to, both as a recreation department activity and also to encourage renting the plots. We're what were the other two pieces? Oh, 65 Main Project is a part of the Connecticut Communities grant request that I just submitted. So that was a request for 244,000 to do the building rehab plus another another somewhat amorphous amount to start doing the landscaping work for the permaculture park. I expect notification on that grant. DECD says late March to early April. My experience with department, state department grants like that is that they're generally run about a month behind. So I would say likely late April to early May, but almost certainly before the end of the fiscal year, we'll have notification one way or the other there. And then Fish and Nips, as we all know, poor Sarah's house burned to the ground, possibly with one of our, well, not possibly with one of our fish bodies in it. The fish body was definitely in there. And I have to assume at this point that one was lost. But she reached back out to me last week. We were going to get together last weekend, but then the storm happened. So she's coming over this weekend. We're going to get back to work on carving the bodies so that we can start doing the assembly, cleaning more nips and doing the assembly once the weather clears up. So we can do that comfortably on my patio again. And just as an asterisk to that, the original metal body that the shop kids made, which I thought was not going to be usable, my beloved husband insists that it can be made to work, and he has been working on it himself in his own private Idaho down in the basement. So my
Yay, Chris.
my never wants to participate beloved husband is turning himself into an artist's assistant all on his own. Yay, Chris.
Yeah, Chris. Yep.
Next.
Next.
Now we have general grants update.
All right, so I gave you a little bit of an overview on the trails and the Connecticut Communities Challenge Grant Round 1. There's going to be a second round of Connecticut Communities Challenge coming up. My plan is to partner with the Thompson Congregational Church on an application similar to the way in which I partnered with the developer for the mill. In other words, the town would be fronting very little or almost none of the match on that. It would all come from the private partner, and we would be the pass-through. I haven't. Whose background noise is that? Oh, that's Renee
mine.
making supper.
No, that's my son making his own supper. Mine's
your
already
son?
in the oven. Let me
Okay.
mute myself. I'll
No,
mute
that's-
myself.
That's fine. Now, I've been very clear to the church that I like what they're proposing, which is essentially a creative placemaking exercise for Thompson Common and the church. And I won't go too far into it because they haven't finalized their plans. But I was very clear that nothing that we're a part of with public money can fund anything religious. They totally understand that. And that'll be for round 2. So if we get totally denied on the first application, some of those pieces may flow into that second application. But that's all very fungible until I know more about what's going on. Because I have so many large grants that either have been confirmed for award or are anticipated for award. So that's the 2 million for the sidewalks, the 2 million for the brownfield cleanup, whatever comes through the trails, and whatever might come through for Connecticut Challenge. I'm probably not going to be actively looking for new grants as much in the short term, unless something super fantastic just drops in my lap that I know is going to be a slam dunk. The only exception to that is Levency and I are probably going to work on a placemaking grant to submit to the AARP. Essentially create a placemaking grant for some of the stuff that we also proposed in the Connecticut Challenge grant, the Communities Challenge grant. Specifically, I think Levency is super interested not only fixing up the basketball court in Riverside Park, but laying down pickleball court markings on there as well, because that is a super popular, very, very rapidly growing activity, which is very, very much aimed towards seniors. And apparently there is no other organized pickleball league or nicely set up pickleball court in the region. So that could be a real draw. And that's right in the pocket for that grant app. So that one he and I will work on probably a little later this month. It's got a March submission date. But other than that, I am likely to lay off new grants, like I said, unless there's a slam dunk or something that presents itself that really seems in the pocket with something that we're doing.
If you need help on any of that pickleball stuff, my neighbor that moved in about 2 years ago as a former tennis coach and is either in or runs the pickleball league out of her old place in Rhode Island. So I'm sure she might take an interest in something developing locally.
That's good to know. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, moving on.
Moving on.
All right, up to new business. Strategize timeline and next steps. A is review POCD action items and decide on next steps and timeline.
All right, let me pull that up then. Give me a second. Talk amongst yourselves while I find the copy. I mean, talk about next steps while I find the copy. Because I know we're going to have to visualize this.
Yeah, I don't remember the last steps.
Well, it was the branding stuff, right? And we accomplished most of that, which was,
Yeah.
you know, there we go.
I know the track was part of the POCD, right? Atos is working on that.
I'm certain that it was referred to. Here we go. Action steps for local identity and municipal branding. Okay. So now I'm going to go back and share screen. Come on. Share screen. You guys got that?
Yep.
All right. So, all right. So we'll just go through them. In progress or for implementation in less than a year. Develop the style book. We did that. Roll out new logos. We did that. Renee, what's your feeling on the establishment and maintenance of the promotional calendar? Madam Chairwoman. If you're trying to talk to us, Renee, you're on mute still.
I know. You're talking about the one that we put on the website?
Well, I guess so, yes, unless you want to broaden that to, you know, I mean, that's what this refers to me. Establish and maintain a promotional calendar for important town events.
So we did, and we did some publicizing of it to the public that they could add their events or whatever. And we put a request button right there that people could send us requests. I haven't really gotten anything through the system though. I think mainly it's rec using it, the library. I don't, go ahead.
I was just going to say, so rec and the library are using it, which is certainly good. And we want to have at least that base, but
we could do some more promotion.
Yes, because that to me says underutilized. We want people to look at it as a resource. So, okay, so there's the thing.
So it's there, it's the capability is there. It's just that we got to promote it some more.
Okay. Consolidate existing social media pages. I feel like that was accomplished pretty well. Again, I'll defer to you, Renee. How do you feel about that?
I think we're at the point that's the best we're going to get. People who have theirs that, are going to hang on to them. So I think we're the best at the best spot right now, as far as we're going to get.
So that, to me, says pretty good progress on all the short-term goals, with more work to be done on the promotional calendar. So then
Right.
here we have the mid-range, which is years 1 to 3, and this is the period that we're in from when this was published, right? The bulk ordering of branded items, that's ad hoc. Improve the consistency of all marketing efforts. I think this is related to another agenda item, which is, that Santos one sheet we keep talking about. So we can talk about that, I guess, under that specific item. Further refine social media strategies and policies. I think that's ongoing. I'm going to defer to you on a lot of these, Renee, in terms of how you feel they're going.
I feel like we covered this, Tara, that we did do this either in our last meeting. This seems very redundant to what we talked about.
I think we've done it before, but I don't think we did this at our last meeting.
Right. Because I thought we were looking at, remember, unless it was with, remember we talked about looking at 20 goals for 2022, and it just seems like we covered that, but perhaps we haven't.
I think that was what the conversation was that in the next meeting, which in December would have been January, we would have gone over the 2022 goals, but we didn't have a meeting in January.
Okay. Okay.
Maybe I'm forgetting too, but that's what I think is probably how it shook down. All right, so just looking at the bullet points. And again, I'm deferring to you on how you think these things are going and where you think we need to go with them. Solicit content frequently from town sources and community contributors.
Well, that is really, I think, our social media intern, and that's been a little bit, what's the word? Less than consistent between her basketball. Then she was sick with COVID, so. I mean, that's really slowed down. Basketball season is wrapping up, so she should be able to get back at that.
And we're going to be hunting for a new intern soon as well, right? To flow into her place.
She potentially could work through the summer.
Okay. And I'd love to have her. I think she does a good job when she's there, but obviously she's had some scheduling challenges, as you pointed out.
Right.
My recollection was that we wanted there to be some overlap between the outgoing and incoming. Is that still our plan?
So usually I think we would probably start looking in June to have that person come on in August before they leave for the summer break.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. So here's, I think, some of the more complex pieces. Develop online and print campaigns to drive attention to Thompson's key outdoor attractions. Obviously, we have the Z maps, and that was a big one. What are the other pieces? And I'm just tossing the questions out here for anybody else to come in, because this is where we're setting our priorities, right?
I'm wondering, Tara, if it makes more sense for the internal folks to sit down and really delve into this before we trying to do this at a meeting. Maybe, Brian Levency isn't here. He's a major part of this. I don't know if it makes more sense for us to kind of try to nail that stuff down ahead of time before a meeting and then kind of present, our ideas to the group.
We can do it. We can do it that way. I mean, these last two bullet points are more like development with a capital D. So really, I think we're talking about these second to last two as being driven out of this subcommittee. The developing of the online and print campaigns for the outdoor attractions and the guidebook for new businesses and developers, which obviously is clearly an EDC based project.
Exactly.
Including this as a subcommittee of EDC. I mean, those are branded materials.
Right. I think we've got to do some internal work before we can, and have something at least to present to this group and to EDC.
Okay, I'm down for that.
So we'll try to schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. And in fact, after we're done with that budget stuff, oh, and Amy, since you're on here, just to let you know, Yacino's coming in at 9 tomorrow, so we can go over the EDC budget for our presentation on Monday. So our morning meeting will just have to come after that. But I think that's probably around when you come into the office anyway, unless I'm mistaken. Just a heads up. So maybe Renee, after I'm done with Amy, I can come in and hobnob with you and pull Leave and See in.
Okay,
Or before I go in with Amy, maybe this makes more sense. Before I go in with Amy, because Yacino will be with me, we
what,
can do
this
that.
this is Monday?
This is tomorrow,
Yeah,
What time are you meeting?
9.
9:00.
9, okay. I can do that. Linda's yeah, I'm working the late shift, but I'll come in for 9 anyway.
Okay, so Amy, if you're, you might just have this in the background, but if you're actually there listening, so I'm going to work with Yacino first thing in the morning. We're going to briefly meet with Leave and See and Renee to go over these two points, particularly the marketing campaigns for the outdoor attractions and the guidebook for developers, and then I'll come in for our weekly meeting. Okay, that's a plan. Look at this. We're moving so fast and we're still making plans.
Yes, we are moving very fast.
It's all for you. It's all for you, Renee.
I know you're doing it for me.
What you got, Yacino?
Okay, next up is Litter League, action items for branding.
This would be much better if Leave and See were in here with us, but he was not available because of basketball tonight. So there is a meeting between the interested stakeholders in developing Litter League, which was originally going to be tomorrow and is rescheduled for next Tuesday at 11. I can't be there because I have a Zoom call with EPA and CT Deep about the river mill. But that meeting, I hope at this point, is now going to establish all the details about how it's going to work, what we need to make it happen, yada, yada, yada. I think there
Okay.
is probably a branding component to that, but that's what you guys can discuss.
So who's leading that? Leave and See?
Well, Leave and See and Beth scheduled the meeting.
Yeah, Thompson
Okay.
together.
Yeah,
Okay, good.
I'll be on that, I guess.
yeah. I mean, there's an obvious tie into Thompson Together because it's it's launching at the same time as the April cleanup. It's just continuing after April cleanup as this, 5-6 month long competitive community litter gathering program. And to me, on the sort of community development side, that is absolutely something that, we should link very closely to the town's identity. I mean, it's not unique in the country. I blatantly stole the idea from something that's going on in Pennsylvania, because I heard it on Wait, Wait, Don't Tell Me, but it is unique to the region. So it's another one of those opportunities where we can get some real positive press. So I guess what I'm asking is, what do you guys think? Where do you think we can find that pressure point?
Don't know exactly what you just asked there, but I do know that it also fits with, the game night, the goals that came out of that. I mean, one of the biggest things was litter.
It was the
So-
biggest thing. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's, I think it's fitting. And I'm happy that it's in conjunction with Thompson Together.
You're asking if there's a specific facet of it that branding could handle.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm asking, and I was probably too wordy about it because that's the way I am. What's the promotional hook? That's what I'm trying to say. What's the promotional hook?
Well, I mean, I think there's a tie-in with the goals that we set forth with branding and that whole game night and the what folks were looking for. So, I mean,
Well, I think it ties in with when we started all this branding, it was the presentation, a first impression of Thompson as you're driving through
Right.
town. What do you see? And I guess litter could be part of it from that angle.
Yeah. Yeah. The wheels that spin in my head constantly, which is why I'm so dizzy. It's so easy to get overwhelmed by negative press and negative publicity, and we have no control over the forums in which that's prevalent. This is a chance, I think, for us to claim some territory back. It's community based.
so why don't we wait for the details and come back
Okay.
to this?
All right, fair enough.
Yeah, it may be something we just oversee. There may not be a specific branding action item there,
Okay.
other than see that it gets done.
And help
Um,
promote it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah,
can help promote it, yeah.
The promotional hook, that is definitely what I'm after in the context of this group.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Next is 11th Village / Maker Fairs. Again, it's whether there's an action plan for branding members specifically.
Yeah, so I kind of want to toss that to you, Yacino, because I did ask you to sort of take the lead. Maybe you can fill us in on what you did talk about with Mike Joyce.
Yeah, I didn't talk about much. Like I said, my impression was he was putting any discussion off until spring, which is what he said. So we didn't talk about anything specific.
Okay, I thought it was more of a conversation than that.
No, and he must be really busy because it took him a month to get back to me.
I think he's not quick on to respond via email. I think he's, a hands-on kind of guy. He does get back, but
Yeah, and I can relate, but yeah, it was right after the December EDC meeting that I reached out to him and didn't hear back till January, which is right around the January EDC meeting. So I'll follow up again. Like I said, my impression was he wasn't talking about it now. And then he reached out to you, and that's why it surprised me.
okay.
Because apparently he is looking to talk about it now.
Okay. I mean, Anne is definitely at least mentally invested in the idea of helping to develop an entrepreneurship program that serves her constituency. I've had 2 conversations with educators at the school, one with the new principal of the high school, Nate. That was a sidebar conversation. It was the one and only time that I've met him. I followed up with an email after he seemed super stoked, and he never replied to that email, and then my attention was pulled elsewhere. I had a similar, although lengthier, conversation with Melinda, whom obviously I know better anyway. She also liked the idea and seemed to have some ideas about how to develop it within their business track curriculum, but that is as far as that went. So that's why I replied back in that email thread to you, Yacino, and Dan, and Anne, and Mike to say, all right, now is the time to put our heads together and show some real progress before the end of their academic year. And if that progress is that they add the facades to the 2 buildings and get maybe a 3rd one built, I don't know if that's reasonable with their class time. We have to find out from Mike what's reasonable.
Yeah, that was one specific thing I asked, to start this off. I mentioned the facades, and I think there was a repair of one of the doors. It was.
Yeah, one of the doors is messed up. I constantly getting calls that it's wide open, and it's not. It's just the way the door's made.
But yeah, he didn't respond to those, specific comments I made about the facades and the small repairs.
Okay.
So, yeah, we'll be talking.
Okay.
Next is the EDC project, what you term the Santos one sheet. And again, implications for branding.
I'm going to defer to you on this one too, Yacino, as chair of EDC on this one, where you think we're headed here.
Well, the thing we're working with now is, yeah, the questions for the businesses and getting the businesses involved. And I figured more of that one sheet action could come from that.
Isn't a lot of that tied into the next point, the May commercial roundtable? Because that was a questionnaire he was developing for the businesses. And
Yeah, because we haven't talked about, specifically as a one sheet. Because what we did is we branched off with Sullivan and Lashane and went on to some enhancements to the website, which kind of were spawned from the discussion of one sheet, which was supposed to be a short synopsis of what we have in town and easier access to activities and events. And like I said, that spun some of the website enhancements.
Which are great, by the way.
Yeah. And then we went on to talking about involving some of the businesses, especially some of the larger ones in the beginning. So that's something that that'll be on the agenda again in February to finalize kind of a front page for that. With the kind of the introduction and the shorter list of questions. I'll send that out again to the members so we can have some pre-meeting discussion.
Yeah, I think the membership for EDC will need to see that again as a reminder.
Yeah, and they have it in their email, but it's the reminder to actually look at it in between meetings, which I have the same problem. Everybody's so busy between meetings that it just gets put off till the night before.
I know how that works.
Well, I do too. That's why I'm not, I'm not saying anything bad, but I will try to get a reminder for people to actually look at the versions of it. You had sent one that was altered, and we have Santos original, and I have the very much shorter one, which I think is more closer to being a final, tell you the truth. But we'll see if we can get some action, people reading on it, and we can actually discuss it and finalize.
Okay, cool.
The final is 3rd May Commercial Real Estate Roundtable at Lord Thompson Manor, and you're asking if branding should participate. And that could go either way, since a lot of branding people are on EDC anyway.
It is true that there is significant overlap.
So, I'm just thinking specifically of Renee. Of course, Renee should be there if she wants to, but if she's, as the chair of the branding subcommittee, but if she can't make it for whatever reason, there are enough EDC members. That's all I'm saying.
And just to give a little more context on those meetings. So I went to the one in January, which is the first one. That was very lightly attended. It was in person at Plainfield Town Hall, but COVID, weather, the holidays, there were probably 10 people there. I attended one online yesterday, and I think there were probably 25 to 30 people dialed in. And the Zoom meeting actually went really, really well. They had a guest presenter who was talking about particular options for large scale energy storage, which was interesting. And then each of the attendees went through, and this is a pretty common format for these kinds of things, and had their couple of minutes to, well, it was like speed dating again, right? To give their pitch. So the realtors were talking about properties they had or needs that they wanted to fill. There were people from insurance. There were people from municipalities. I was there. Delpha was there. Jill St. Clair from Killingly. The three of us attend a lot of stuff at the same time. Talking about the kinds of things we were interested in seeing happen. And it did seem to be a very nicely engaged group. So for the 3rd of May, we, meaning EDC and branding, I think are the guest presenters, right? To give a real deep dive pitch about what makes Thompson appealing, interesting, and these are commercial brokers, right? So, some of that can be around specific properties, right? Like 630 Riverside, or if Charlene's Mill still hasn't sold, or whatever else, right? But some of it should be the assets outside of the specific properties. So the branding package and what that means, I think, is important. And some of the EDC stuff around developing opportunities, working on co-branded marketing things, or letting Santos talk about how the zoning regulations were updated and what that means for development. That is a case for you to have a really targeted audience. So again, I would encourage you guys to think about what you want that to look like so we can organize it. Again, it's going to be at Lord Thompson Manor. Andrew's totally psyched for it and is going to be hosting. And you couldn't ask for a better locale, right? It's going to be in that front room lounge that they have. Very cozy, very corporate looking. This is a chance to shine to people who may not have given us the attention in the past.
Okay. Yeah,
Discuss.
well, yeah, I can see us, I mean, maybe for the April EDC meeting, that should be the one agenda, or branding meeting. That could be the one agenda item.
Where are you at, Renee?
I'm here.
Well, yeah, I'm looking for your contribution, Madam Chairwoman.
Well, what was Brian's suggestion? About
I was saying, if we're presenters and we're coming up with the ideas, we can discuss it in the meantime, but I'm suggesting maybe our April branding meeting should have one agenda item, and it would be that, to put our presentation together.
Sounds like a plan. I'm good with that.
Anybody else, any thoughts on that? No harm in starting those wheels turning.
Oh, no. No, the wheels could start turning now, but we could still, take the branding meeting and put everything together.
Lafredo, Ken, Amy, any thoughts on that?
Not yet for me. I mean, it's something certainly we could be talking about more next month. I'm also conscious of Renee's time limits here.
I know, I'm watching the clock.
Tara, this is Amy. I apologize. I took a call from a potential interim finance director, and I've been on the phone with that person until about 5 minutes ago. So I missed some of what you were talking about, so I do apologize.
No worries. We're talking about the commercial realty roundtable that we
Oh,
have
yes.
scheduled for the manor.
Yep.
And just starting the brainstorming process of what, because we'll end up being, and by we, again, I mean EDC and branding primarily, will be sort of the guest speakers at that one.
Mhm.
And, what these groups want to present, what kind of context, and to start batting those ideas around. So, just toss that out to everybody who's on the call, what springs to mind. And then later on, we'll start fleshing stuff out.
Well, I mean, with this meeting, it's going to be realtors, correct? Or local
been-
business people?
It's mostly realtors. There has been a civil engineer who's been at both of the ones I've attended, some insurance folks, and then like Delpha was there yesterday as well, and Jill
Okay.
St. Clair, who is essentially my counterpart in Killingly,
Mhm.
talking about what their hopes and wants are, and also presenting, properties that are ripe for development.
Right.
For example, I talked about 630 Riverside and Charlene's Mill, which as far as I'm aware is still on the market. And, these are commercially developable properties.
Did we keep in mind the old Extra Mart building and how is that looking?
I purposefully don't mention that because every conversation I've had with Peter Lang is that thing is a mess.
Is it a mess? Oh, that's what my husband just said. Jason's standing there and he called it a mess.
Yeah. So
Oh.
what I understand from Peter is that because Extra Mart is a petroleum distributor, they have riders built into all of their contracts that have to do with contamination and stuff.
Oh,
And it's been a while since I couldn't tell you exactly what they are,
okay.
but that essentially turn people off from the sale. And because that one never actually sold petroleum, shouldn't
Mhm.
even apply to that property, but they're
Right.
totally inflexible about removing it from their contracts.
Okay.
Similarly,
No, makes
I
sense.
yeah. Similarly, I looked back at some emails I had with Jeff McCarroll, the guy who was talking about purchasing Superior Bakery.
Mhm.
And in one of those emails, what he said to me is Superior Bakery, or their parent company, wants to include a rider that it won't be a bakery going in there,
Oh.
which is like totally stupid.
Right.
And he didn't. I emailed him yesterday, and he didn't get back to me. So I don't know if that's dead and gone or what. But that was in our email history together. Ken, go
Right.
ahead. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to
As
cut
an
you off.
FYI, Extramont on 131 did sell gasoline there. That was an original gas station.
Really?
And that's
Uh-huh.
because I bought gas there.
Oh,
All right. Well, at least
Okay.
that makes more sense then.
Okay, but they haven't sold gas there. Oh, shortly after the embargo, etc., when we were rationing, then they went out
oh,
of
in the
business.
70s?
But that was
Back
an
into the
act.
70s?
Yeah, that would have been in the 70s.
There's something else with that place. I can't remember who it was. I was talking to somebody who wanted to buy it and open a business. And Extra Mart wanted to sell, but whoever was buying had to sign a contract that they couldn't make any changes. They couldn't even paint the walls without permission from Extra Mart, even though they were buying the facility. So if that's true, nobody's going to want that place anyway.
That sounds questionably legal, but yeah. Go ahead, whoever was that.
That was me. I'm just wondering, has anybody reached out at all? Now that we've settled the whole corridor abatement for Unicore nutmeg container, the Piuses had talked at some point about potentially dividing up the land by the old New Rampac for like industrial expansion.
I haven't talked to Charlie in quite some time, largely because I did not know what the status was of that that mess with the enterprise.
Yeah, we finally, I think, to my knowledge, we've settled it, and they've received what they were looking to receive from the assessor.
All
at
right,
this
well,
point.
that's good to know, because I feel much more comfortable reaching out to Charlie with that knowledge.
Right.
And I'm happy to do that, you know, and maybe invite him
Yeah,
to that roundtable if he's interested. I mean, it's right around the corner for him. So I'll do that. I'll invite him to that as it comes up.
okay, that would be great.
Yep. Anybody else, any thoughts on that? All right, well, we can keep it on the agenda for both EDC and branding so that we can continue to shape this thing out. And then I think that's an excellent suggestion, Yacino, to make it the entire business, or at least the bulk of the business, depending on what else happens between now and then, for the April meeting.
Okay. So that's it. The final item here is member comments and then adjournment. And we're over 45 minutes already.
And listen to that, Charlie's not here, so we might get out.
Just a quick question, Yacino, did we add Jill St. Cyr do we know if we added her to the webpage as one of the restaurants in town?
No. No, we have, I mean, as far as I know, we haven't. I haven't gotten any paperwork or anything to, you know, to suggest it, but
Well, if there are questions regarding marketing, that's certainly one of the tools we give to the local
Yeah.
restaurants on the Find Your Way page.
They're officially open now, right? They had their soft open last weekend during the storm.
Yes, and they're supposed to have their grand opening this weekend. She's probably not doing a ribbon cutting. I haven't heard any follow-up to that. I was there last week when she met with Winnie, so I had a conversation with Yacino about what transpired on that. But of course, we have an ice storm coming this weekend, so she's not picking a great time to open, but it's giving her a chance to slowly move into things. Mainly, she was looking to see what we could do to help businesses in terms of EDC, marketing, and things like that. A lot of it, I think, fell more to the Thompson Business Association. That's why I had a discussion with Yacino about what her expectations were and what either organization might be doing or not doing.
You know, that's interesting, Lafredo. If you or Yacino or anybody else really runs into her again, has that conversation with her again or anything like that, try to get her to like either come in or like send me those questions, right? Because that's sort of what we're trying to get at with that business survey is what is of use. And if we have a person who is trying to volunteer that information, let's not wait for the survey. Let's get those thoughts up front. And maybe she'll want to get involved. I mean, she is a high energy person.
I did actually invite her and mention that we did have openings on boards, but she has recently joined the Republican Town Committee, and with the business, she didn't feel like she had the time to give to the town committees.
Which is totally fair, but let's try to get those questions from her.
Okay.
To
I
give
have
us,
some, I could send them along, but if I can get her to deliver them directly, that would be great.
yeah, that would be great.
yeah. Any more member comments? You want to call for adjournment, Renee, if you're still there?
Renee just texted me. She lost the internet.
Oh.
Okay. A motion to adjourn is in order.
I'll second that.
Let's adjourn at 7:25.
Undebatable.
Thanks, guys. Good short meeting.
All right.
See you in
Thank
the
you.
morning, Yasino.
Okay.
Later.
Later.